couple of months ago, I received a series of questions from a prospective student, and I think these questions are really good questions. I would like to answer them and share my responses, particularly looking at USyd, UNSW, or UTS, the big three in the city of Sydney. 5254 Ulysses asks, "Hey there, thanks for the video. This is probably the third time I've watched it so far." I love that, thank you, really. I think I ramble on and my presentation skills still need a lot of work, but yeah, I'm surprised you can tolerate my voice is what I'm saying. I really appreciate the organization and presentation style that you choose. As a prospective student, I wanted to ask what your reasons were for choosing UNSW for your bachelor degree over other unis, like USyd and UTS. I've also heard rumors down the grapevine that UNSW tends to bring out the big guns in first year to cull the herd. Yep, they all do that, so to speak. What's your opinion on that, i.e. the course load, lectures and tutors, cohort unity, etc.? Additionally, to tack onto that, would someone not from an arts background have a harder time transitioning to the principles and work required in first year? Thanks in advance. Basically, I'm going to read my response, but I've edited it since, and going off the script of what I said, the other things I think I should add. It comes down to each individual's study routine. UNSW swapped to trimesters at my final year, which I wasn't so fond of compared to semesters. Semesters work better if you have a job because there are 6 months to the year where you're not studying, rather than 3 or so. Keep in mind, all 3 unis you're looking at allow for staggered classes, which basically means you can take part-time or full-time. You could take 1 course instead of a full 3-course study load per semester. It just means you take longer. This is very common by the time you get to masters. Some people are literally taking only 2 studios for 2 years, then will complete all their electives in their 3rd year instead of mashing it all up in a 2-year period time frame. It means they can fully focus on the design and then get rid of all what is perceived to be the boring stuff later in the final year. I recently thought UNSW offers the most practical study experience out of the top 3, but have looked around and now I actually think they've evened out as they compete for better teachers and course content after the last few years of online turmoil. UNSW also diverged away from politics. I think you can't go wrong with any uni overall, but there exists a perceived emphasis on different things across the universities. The common perceptions I hear from other people are that UNSW is practical, UTS is political and practical, and USyd is scholarly and practical. I highly recommend going to each university's open day and talking to architecture faculty to get a feel of what's right for you, because you are going to be stuck with these people for minimum 5 years. Don't take everything they say seriously. They are trying to cull out the weak links, the people who aren't truly passionate about architecture. They want to do that in year 1, and then they relax a little bit, but year 1 will be grueling. For example, what kept me away from USyd was being told you need at least 2-unit math. Turns out the most math anyone has really used in any university for, even at architecture master's level, is the hypotenuse for figuring out steps. And then there's usually a course or 2 on engineering. That's just transfer loads of weights, but even then that's not math. It's hard work, but it's hard to fail. I'd agree that my first year at UNSW was a challenge and shock to the system. My best advice for you, so that you're better prepared, is to learn some basic software before starting university. That includes Photoshop, some CAD software like AutoCAD, and I think the best one to learn is Revit, because that's basically an industry standard at this point. But I have not learnt Revit, which would put me at a disadvantage if I were looking for a job after my masters. These softwares offer free student licenses once you're an enrolled student at a university. If you have all the time in the world, well, I use Blender, which is 100% free and unlicensed, but it is certainly not easy to learn, or as easy as the other programs I've mentioned. Understand the process of sketch design. I wouldn't recommend even starting to use CAD systems until halfway into every semester, because before that it's usually about research and investigating form. The computer limits, especially students' potential to learn. Computer comes when you're ready to document the fun graphics, but even at first year level, no one expects you to have any of that under your belt yet. It's more collage and making things look pretty. I know a few people who jumped into architecture and interior design from an arts background and enjoyed themselves greatly. I reckon the courses are challenging for everyone because they are steep learning curves, and it's a long process of developing presentation skills, which our generation find terrifying. Standing up and talking for 5 minutes, even 5 minutes by yourself, can be very frightening and exhausting. But this is an essential skill to hone down for obvious reasons. You don't want to be reading off a set of notes as almost everybody does. I was one of the rare people who get up and ad-lib and talk to the presentation behind me and move my hands and gesture. A lot of people don't do that. So I may be reading off a script now because I have to be careful with what I say. In terms of social cohort, I think it doesn't depend on the uni. It actually depends on the mindset you go in with. It comes down to how much you want to get out of uni and how much of a social life balance you want with that. I thank you very much for listening and watching. Please leave any more comments if there's something I missed out and you would really love to know, and I would hope to be of help to answer some questions. Great. See you next video.